What is the Matthewite Florinite Schism? In 1924, Archimandrite Matthew Carpethakis and his lay followers of the old calendarists separated as non-commemorators in opposition to the new calendar reforms and persecution by the Greek state under Meletios Metaxakis. After Metaxakis died in 1935, 3 bishops from the state church decided to cease communion with the Greek Orthodox Church and join the non-commemorating old calendarists. Germanos of Demetrius, who was ordained before the old calendar schism, therefore had valid ordinations. Chrysostom of Florina, who was also validly ordained but retired, and Chrysostom of Zakynthos, who was ordained after the old calendar schism. So chairthesia was performed on him by the other 2. After the 3 bishops declared the Orthodox confession of faith through accepting the old calendar and declaring the new calendar as graceless and outside the church with the 1935 encyclical, they received the 1 million old calendarists into communion and ordained 4 bishops: Germanos of the Cyclades, Varicopoulos, Polycarpus of Diavleia, Leosis, Christophoros of Megra, Hatsis, and most importantly Matthew of Bresthena, Carpethakis. The old calendarists continued their synod without issues, and Chrysostom of Florina would actively commemorate and support Matthew. Up until 1937, disaster struck. Many of the former bishops would start apostatizing and giving in to going to the Greek state church. Germanos of Demetrius was one of them. Then Chrysostom of Florina would betray the 1935 confession of faith and say the new calendarists were only potential schismatics and not actually schismatic, and conclude the new calendarists were still part of the church and therefore still had sanctifying grace in their sacraments. This scandalized Matthew of Bresthena and Germanos of Cyclades, leading to them breaking communion with Chrysostom of Florina and the other bishops who agreed with him. This is also why most Matthewites consider Chrysostom of Florina the original Cyprianite heretic for believing the world Orthodox was still part of the church. Chrysostom's group would be known as the Florinites and Matthew's group would be known as the Matthewites. Then Germanos of Cyclades tried to usurp the synod and split from Matthew. Germanos would later be arrested for consecrating priests and die in prison. Chrysostom of Florina made the claim that he, quote-unquote, felt the grace in the myrrh oil he was using from the Greek state church, leading him to conclude the new calendarists were not graceless and thus received new calendarists without chrismation. Matthew, on the other hand, maintained that though new calendarists didn't need to be rebaptized because of the Trinitarian form, they were still chrismated. In 1937, a miracle happened over a Matthewite church in Crete. The sign of the cross appeared again for the second time, like the one that appeared over an old calendarist church during a vigil in 1925. The cross in 1937 also had thousands of witnesses and personal testimonies from people who saw it. Chrysostom of Florina would continue his schism and get very angry at Matthew, and in his letters would mock and name-call him. Chrysostom of Florina would also actively write to the Greek state and the Department of Religion to shut down Matthew's operations to further increase persecution of the old calendarists. He would also start praising Stalin as an Orthodox savior and praising Patriarch Sergius, who would submit his church to the Soviet Union and persecute Orthodox Christians. Archimandrite Akakios and Oxentios would beg Matthew to single-handedly consecrate bishops, but would not do so at this time because he was still searching for Orthodox bishops around the world to contact. Akakios and Oxentios would then flee to the Florinites because they got defrocked and because they were not going to be ordained bishops. They then begged Chrysostom of Florina to ordain them, and he also said he would not do it either. Then, in 1948, Bishop Matthew would eventually single-handedly consecrate Bishop Spiridon of Trimithis, and together with him, consecrate more bishops. This was done out of economy due to the inability to gather Orthodox bishops in the area. Also worth noting is that the canons permit one-hand consecration in times of persecution or inability to gather bishops. Chrysostom would actively seek to be received into the world Orthodox again, but his petitions would be rejected. Chrysostom of Florina, after being released from prison and promising not to ordain any new bishops, would then go to meet Bishop Matthew in his bed. Matthew would turn his head away from Chrysostom when he appeared in the room. An angry group of people would then kick Chrysostom of Florina out of the monastery where Matthew was resting. In 1950, Matthew would repose in the Lord. Chrysostom of Florina would then write an encyclical claiming to renounce his 1937 decision and go back to the 1935 confession of faith of declaring the new calendarists as schismatics that are graceless and outside the church. This was apparently to bait the Matthewite bishops into communion with him, and in actuality, Chrysostom never believed in his 1950 encyclical. In 1951, Chrysostom would then write to the Greek state saying he would help to kill off the old calendarist movement and slowly submit them to the Greek state in an attempt to seize 2 monasteries from the Matthewites. He managed to get the Kuvara monastery taken, but not the Kareta one. Chrysostom would then retire and then unretire himself. According to the book, The Struggle Against Ecumenism from Hakhna, near the end of his life, he told his flock and priests to rejoin with the Matthewites. In 1955, Chrysostom of Florina would die, and his funeral would be conducted by the new calendarist state church. He would never ordain anyone, which would leave the Florinites without any bishops for a decade. The Florinites would then beg rocor to ordain bishops for them, to which rocor told them no. But in 1960, 2 bishops from rocor secretly went to meet Akakios Papas. One of them was Seraphim of Chicago, and the other was Theophil Ionescu. Theophil Ionescu was a Romanian new calendarist, and together with Seraphim, ordained Akakios Papas secretly without the knowledge of rocor. Akakios would make his ordination a secret, and in 1962, managed to get another bishop, named Leonti of Chile, to help him ordain Oxentios Pastras. These actions would not only continue to schism between the Matthewites and Florinites, but also cause the Florinites to fall under their own anathema against the calendarists. Later in 1972, Seraphim of Chicago from Rocor, in a letter to Auxentios, says that he regrets helping ordain the Florinites and praises the Matthewites for not falling away and being consistent in their ecclesiology, whereas the Florinites flip-flop in their positions. The main reason for writing this letter was because of his deep regret after realizing that ordaining them actually worsened any kind of unity, as well as Auxentios' terrible attitude towards the Matthewites after rocor would enter communion with the Matthewites in 1971, and in doing so, recognize the ordinations that Bishop Matthew performed on them. Auxentios would then make up a story about how the Matthewites were getting reordained by rocor, to which the Matthewites denied, saying it was only a prayer of forgiveness being read over them. Rocor also admitted that charisthesia never even took place at all. Thus, the Matthewite apostolic succession remains untouched. In 1974, the Matthewites ceased communion with Rocor because they would only declare the world orthodox graceless orally, but never in a written statement as promised, and also because of the 1974 letter, which claimed that they were not in a position to decide that and to wait for a council. They also didn't fix the issues with new calendarists within their synod, thus breaking their promise to the Matthewites.